everyone, Christina here from Our Wood Home. I know that many of you who are subscribed to my channel or who are new to my videos may not know about my blog, which goes by the same name, Our Wood Home. I've been writing over there since 2012, but I've noticed that blogs seem to be less popular than they were a few years ago. I understand because reading and truly understanding a blog article takes time. We're all busy in various ways, and I personally find it easier to just listen to someone speak than to dedicate time to actually enjoy a blog post in written format. That's why I've decided to go back through some of my posts on my blog and read them aloud for you. You can listen while you do other tasks, and I hope that you enjoy doing so. So without further ado, let's get started. This is part 2 in the Marital Submission series. I am going to be linking part 1 somewhere in the comments, the description, or somewhere in this video, so if you wanted to check that out, you can. I also wanted to make a quick note before I actually start reading my blog post about this. I'm not an expert in biblical studies or theology or anything like that. I'm just somebody who has taken the time to do my own personal study and make my conclusions based on what I'm reading and learning. I also want to say I'm doing this series specifically for wives. Husbands, men, and single women, you are definitely welcome to join me along in this series, but I'm hoping that men and husbands, if you are listening, that you're not going to be taking this information to your wives saying, this is what you need to be doing, because that is certainly not my intention with this series. My goal is to speak to other wives who maybe have been in a similar position as I was, and to encourage them that seeking to have a submissive spirit towards their husbands and to God is a good way to go. So with that statement out of the way, let's get going into part 2 of this series. And wives, I'm hoping that if you struggle to grasp the idea of biblical submission to your husband, that you will at least consider it with an open mind. If we can agree that submission in marriage is a valid biblical command and teaching in present day, then how do we respond to it? In 2 John chapter 1, verse 6, we are told that following the commands of God is one of the ways that we show that we truly love Him. That verse reads as follows: "And this is love, that we walk according to His commandments. This is the commandment, just as you have heard from the beginning, that you should walk in it." Being submissive doesn't come easily for many of us, but if we view it as just another check mark on our Christianity to-do list, can we ever really be truly submissive? Sure, we can act like we respect our husband's authority, but if our spirit is still desiring to usurp him, are we really following God's command? Now, it may not seem like it when you read my blog or watch my videos, but I have a strong and willful personality. I'm the typical oldest child, and I tend to be bossy and opinionated, so I had to really work on being submissive. It certainly didn't happen overnight, and it did take a lot of prayer, work, and Bible study for me to get to where I am now. In order to submit to our husbands, we need to first submit to God. Take a look at Job chapter 22, verse 21, and let's reflect on how we can first submit to God's will and authority over our lives. That passage reads, "Yield now and be at peace with him. Thereby good will come to you. Please receive instruction from his mouth and establish his words in your heart." I encourage you to consider the following questions for your own benefit. Firstly, what is your attitude towards submission today, and where do you want it to be? And second, how can you personally submit to God first and foremost? I have another question for you, wives. Do you feel like your husband needs to man up? Are you being too controlling in your marriage, which is preventing him from being in the God-given role as head of the home? Let's take a look at 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12, which says, "But I do not allow a woman to teach or exercise authority over a man, but to remain quiet." I know that this is a passage of scripture that rubs a lot of Christians the wrong way, because it says that women are not to be in a position of authority over men, especially when it comes to matters of the Bible. Now, just as a side note, I don't believe this applies to school teachers presiding over male students in a school classroom, but that's just my opinion. For context of this verse in Timothy, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35. The women are to keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but are to subject themselves, just as the law also says. If they desire to learn anything, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is improper for a woman to speak in church. When I first read this, my first question was, why would it be improper? And am I breaking the rules by making an announcement at Sunday service? Can I say hello to the greeter? I think those kinds of speaking are fine, but challenging the pastor or leading a discussion / actually preaching is what is being referred to here. My understanding of this verse is that it would be seen as an indication of lack of submission in a marriage if a woman was to speak up in church. It would also be dishonoring to the woman's husband because it implies she does not respect his authority, which has been given to him by God. But if we as Christian wives who desire to be more submissive to our husbands don't believe in the authority of this verse, it's easy for us to usurp our husband's role as head. We may naturally be a take-charge, headstrong, leadership-oriented person, which is all well and good, but if it is hindering our husbands, shouldn't that be a cause for concern? I encourage us all to take an honest look at ourselves to determine if we are hindering our husband's biblical role as our authority. I'll be honest, this was a real problem for me. I am naturally a decision maker, and I just like to get things done instead of taking time to think about all the pros and cons. But once again, through prayer and study, I've been able to let go of my tendencies to want to control everything and to respect my husband as the decision maker. Now, if you have read this post on my blog, you may already be familiar with some of the comments about this topic. And if not, let me briefly address something that was brought up in the comments. Somebody asked me if I make myself look stupid so that my husband could feel more self-confident, and asked if he would do the same for me. Now, I'm not sure how this commenter got that impression that I made myself look stupid in any way. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should all become meek, timid, little doormats. That's not what I'm trying to get across here, and I don't believe that's what Scripture is telling us. What I do think we can learn from this is that if we have controlling or loud or aggressive or abrasive personalities, that's an area that we could be improving on. I'm not saying we should completely change how we are, but there's ways to still keep parts of our personality, but do so in a more biblical and God-pleasing way. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because I know it can be hard to sometimes make sense of these passages of Scripture, especially if it's something that you've never taken the time to study, or if you're just learning about it for the first time now. So as always, I welcome comments and questions in the comment section of this video here. And as I said before, I don't claim to be an expert on this at all. It is entirely possible that when I'm reading these passages, I'm taking it way out of context. I don't think I am, because I have done a fair bit of study on it, but if you have any other insights onto what this verse is saying, or any of the verses mentioned in this video, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. There will be a few more in this series, and if there's any other topics that you'd like me to cover, please, again, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this post and will continue to stick around. Please subscribe if you feel like you would enjoy more videos from me. And if you've already subscribed, make sure you turn on the little bell notification to receive a little alert every time I post a new video. I plan to go through the rest of my marital submission series that's on my blog and record that here for you on YouTube. So again, thank you for listening today. I hope you have a great day.